Obviously from where the business was when we started together, which was just kind of on the cusp of like a six-figure business, to what you've achieved in the last 3 months, 3 record-breaking months, and obviously just hitting a 27k a month. So now at a point where you're like over a $250,000 business, which is absolutely incredible. From my perspective, I think you deserve one, appreciation, which I've given to you, but two, actually just an accolade to show off the work. I think in business, it's not something we always get accoladed for. So from my perspective, something I wanted to do for you was welcome you into the CEO Platinum Club. There you go, bro.
Very good. Thank you.
So I'll be expecting those on your Zoom calls.
Very good.
So I have Paul in with me today, and we're going to talk through just a few steps around the growth he's achieved to go from 9k per month to 27k per month, and then actually looking past that and seeing where he needs to go to kind of take his business to the next level. So Paul, great to have you in with me.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Incredible view.
I know, yeah. We have a nice, we promise it's not a green screen.
I thought it was something close when I came in, but yeah, it's definitely cool for sure.
Okay, Paul, so I want to kind of take it back to, let's say, our call, I think it was maybe mid-June. I remember having a call and distinctively you being at a point of like feeling like your business was pretty much plateaued in the same position, even feeling you may be going back a small bit. So like take me back to that there, kind of how you were feeling with regards to the business, and yeah, we can take it from there.
Yeah, good question. So I suppose January sort of right through to May was kind of hitting around 10, 11k sterling per month consistently, and then actually regressed in May to around sort of 7.5k sterling. And was kind of at a crossroads in May of where I should really go. Like, to put this in the context, 15 months ago, I was still working full time in a finance firm doing accountancy exams. So it was a big leap for me, and it was a risk, dropping that whole career to move into this, and I needed to make it work. And I was in a mentorship at the time, and I'll not discredit it because it done a lot for me in terms of like shifting a lot of beliefs and things. And with where I was and where I wanted to go, I wasn't going to get there. Like I just literally wasn't going to get there. Like I needed a map. I didn't have a map. I knew where I wanted to go, but I just didn't know how I was going to get there in the end, really.
Okay, so take it forward to us having that conversation in June. I remember even we got off the call and it was still something you were on the fence about, but obviously you made the decision to move forward. At that point, looking forward, what was like the thing you felt like you needed from like a business coach or for help within your business to like take that step? Did you know exactly what it was, or were you even unsure exactly what you needed?
Yeah, I think I did know what I needed to do. I just didn't know how to do it. Like, we went back and forth on Instagram a fair bit. And there was lots of voice notes there in terms of me telling you where I'm at, where I want to go, get a setter, hire a coach possibly. And you were just sort of reaffirming that I just needed clarity, and that's what I needed. I needed someone, personally, I like working with people one-to-one. You work with me one-to-one. You've also done what I want to do. It's logical to move forward with it. You know? That's kind of where I was at. Yeah,
100%. I think I even remember my call with you quite distinctly, because I think for me, and this is something I'll say to you and like other clients from my sales calls, it's like, having conviction in terms of like what you do to like move forward. And when I work one-to-one with people, I am quite like picky with who I work with, because I have to spend a lot of time talking to them and messaging them. And when I have a call with someone, and one, they can have hesitation because they've already invested a lot of money. Their business is at a point where they're like, hey, do I really want to do another big investment into my business? But for me, it's always like, if I feel like I can really help someone and this is really what they need, I think I'm doing a disservice if I don't like portray that and kind of like let you know. So I say the same with fitness coaches. I think some fitness coaches say they hate selling, or they hate trying to like convince someone to do it. But it's like, if you truly believe, you can help someone and you can help them move forward, it's like, have that conviction. You're kind of doing a disservice for the person if you don't.
Definitely. Like, in terms of like bringing a client on board, like if they're on the call, they're on the call for a reason. They're interested in making a change. You just need to give them that push over the edge for them to actually commit. And then when they do commit, they execute. As long as you can deliver, you can portray that conviction on the call. It's important.
And it's interesting, because I think a lot of people, it's almost just their idea around like selling, or the word is like so ingrained in their head in like a negative way. But it's like, if you only coach the people who are like easy sale, like they're going to sign up with you anyway or sign up with another coach. So okay, you make some form of impact, but if you can look back at your clientele and be like, okay, there was 10 people this year in 2024 that I coached that there was a real high chance they didn't sign up with me, but because I asked them certain questions, because I was persuasive and they made a decision and they took action, I just transformed 10 people who would probably be in a really bad situation if I didn't. And like I think that's like proper impact.
Yeah, definitely just getting them to sort of move forward with things in general, putting down a financial commitment. If they're interested in the change, they're going to be committed when they do move forward with things in general. So definitely. For me personally, like, I don't know where your head's at with this, but like one massive shift that I've seen mentally recently is you almost have to push guys on the payment in full as opposed to like a monthly recurring, because guys are not committed when it comes to monthly recurring stuff. Yeah. And like they're likely to drop off at £200 a month isn't necessarily a big commitment for them. Whereas if it's a 5 or 6 month commitment where it's all up front, they're going to do the program. Yeah. They're going to execute, and that's what makes it a true impact in my opinion, really. Yeah.
Good story actually, and I've said this before, but definitely worth repeating. So I signed up with my first business mentor February 2020, and they had an option for a 6 month paid in full, and I think you saved £1,000 versus paying the monthly. Yeah. So at that time I paid the paid in full, so it was paid up for 6 months, February 2020. March 2020, obviously lockdown happened, and everyone was in a huge panic. I remember I was actually living in my family home at the time, planning to move out, and my parents were like, oh God, like, it was panic everywhere, like, we don't know what's going to happen in your business, so like, stayed at home. So my thought process then was like, if I was actually paying monthly, there's such a high chance I would have cancelled. I would have had this like worry and be like, oh God, I can't spend any money, and I would have got into scarcity mindset and cancelled the mentorship, and I wouldn't have moved forward. Because I paid 6 months in advance, I was like, okay, I'm locked into this. And I remember actually having the call with the mentor and being like, kind of getting on the call, being nervous. And he's like, oh, this is a great time. He's like, people are at home, they're not spending their money. He's like, this is a great opportunity for you. Yeah. And that's like all I needed to hear. I needed someone to have that belief in me. Yeah. I was listening to all this like worry on the news, like from like family members, and this one person gave me that positive word. And genuinely that 6-12 months of kind of like that whole 2021 completely transformed my business. So then when I was selling fitness coaching and doing 6 months paid in full, I'm doing this for the individual, because I know in life so much shit can happen, so many things can go wrong, so many things can happen, and it's so easy for people to drop out, like I nearly did. But because I didn't and I paid for 6 months, I had the biggest change I've ever had in my life. So it's like, if you can get that onto clients who pay in full, you don't just work with them through the good, you work with them through the tough as well.
And if guys aren't willing to actually go on to a plan when things are tough, fitness almost becomes like a seasonal thing for them, in regards to like they're only going to do it when all their ducks are in line.
Exactly.
Where that's not the case.
100%.
All the time, So.
Yeah. That's why I say, I love, like, I don't know if you've heard of like the reason close, something Alex Hormozy said. So it's like the reason someone thinks they shouldn't do it is the reason someone should. So let's say if you had a client on like a monthly subscription and he's like, oh, I'm going to stop because next month's like crazy busy with work. Just have so much going on, so I'm just going to park it for a bit. It's like, okay, so the reason you think you should stop is the reason you should actually keep going. Because like now's a more important time for you than ever. So I always say that if like a client saying about leaving, if it's someone on a sales call, usually the reason that they're saying they should stop or they shouldn't move forward is the reason that they should.
That makes a lot of sense. You can like almost sail the ocean when it's rough. If you can get through that patch when it's calm, you'll be able to excel, really. 100%. That makes a lot of sense. I haven't seen that before. It's interesting.
100%. Okay, so I suppose we can take it forward maybe even 1 month, first month in, I think you over 2x your income in the first month. So like, I suppose like for us it was just putting a kind of clear game plan in place. Me actually, I think instilling more belief in you is a huge thing, and kind of picking up that momentum. Was there anything kind of specific maybe you felt change from like, firstly like a mindset perspective for you kind of moving into that?
I suppose just having a strategy, like actually having the KPI tracker, the lead gen tracker, and then just having you in my corner as well. Like anytime if you need anything, even if you don't need to run it past you, I'll always still run it past you, because you do have a pretty
Yeah.
incredible perspective on things.
Yeah.
You know, which is helpful. So I suppose just having that strategy, it's just execute, see what happens. You know, it was the first month really,
Yeah.
and even just your calmness around it when we talked on
Yeah.
the call and got things set up. It was confident.
Yeah, 100%. I think with that, it's like sometimes, and this is what I always say, like if because with me, if I've walked that road before, I've helped other people do it. The calmness almost comes from like me knowing you can do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and it was even taking back to my first mentorship again. I think at that point in 2020, I like that January 2020, like randomly hit like a 10k month, but that was like first time doing it, and he said like, oh, you're like a 15 to 20k per month business, and I remember being like, I want to sign up, but like I was like, geez, just keep me at 10k and I'm happy. And it was almost like when someone has been on a road before and helped other people do it, they can easily see you hitting that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same for me to you. Like that calmness almost comes from me kind of seeing you're a very good worker, seeing where the business is at, knowing that you can kind of push to that level.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So September being your biggest record month, $27,000 in the month, which is crazy. And I think what I want to add to this is that you're the only coach in the business right now.
Yeah.
So something I think is important is what I see now is a lot of coaching businesses that are built to be earning 25, 30,000 a month, but they're not there and their income's actually a lot less and expenses are really high.
Yeah.
So obviously for me, the biggest thing is working with someone and it being a relationship, not a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So I advise you, I think we should do this. For example, I think you should get a coach soon. And if you said back to me, soon, maybe just for another month, I want to kind of like push it myself. I feel like I can take on a lot more clients.
Yeah.
Then we do kind of what you say. So I give an idea, you have the end result. But what I think is really impressive with you is the amount of kind of like profit in the business. You don't have a big team of 5 helping you hit that.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, with the month just gone, like how have you felt in terms of like one, kind of like managing time, and 2, what you'd say like the biggest things you've done this month differently or perhaps more of the same to kind of hit that record breaking month?
So, I've kind of just done more of the same, to be fair. Just nailed down on it more, been more consistent. We brought a lot of new guys onto the program in September, so it's kind of like we've had a good September. It's touching on where we mentioned there around hiring a coach. Like you actually asked me recently, like how many clients do you feel like I could actually what would be the sweet spot? And like, to be truthful, I don't know, because I've never been there. Like old fitness coaches that used to coach me would always advise me on this is a good number to get to, and I've always had the mentality, yes, I'll just grind more, which is kind of like I'm reaching that limit and I'm starting to realise that's what Connor means in terms of like you're running out of sort of time and things to fulfill guys. So I suppose like taking on a coach, it does allow you to scale past where you're at the minute. That probably doesn't answer your question. What was
That's good though. I think even leading into that, it's kind of like the cost versus opportunity cost. So when we're kind of looking to hire someone, I'd always think, so for you now, it's like, hey, for me not having a coach, I don't have a coach to pay. I can kind of focus on it myself. But then the opportunity cost of you not having them, if you feel it's taking away from your part in the business. So if you're like, oh, I have so much client work to do, I feel I'm slacking on content, or geez, I haven't kind of been working on that strategy that Connor mentioned, and some things get put on the back burner because the fulfillment of coaching so much. So then it's you asking, and this is going to be different for everyone. So this is also what I say, it's about building a business that you want and that you love. So you might love coaching and you might want to work as many clients as possible and be very happy with how much you're earning. But then if you say a bigger goal for me than just being a coach is owning a coaching brand that can help as many people as possible. And if that's the goal and if that's your mindset, you'd have to say, okay, I can see the amount of client fulfillment I'm doing is taking away from me building the brand that I need. So now if I'm not bringing a coach on board, it's almost like a disservice for where I want to take the business, if that makes sense.
It's just making a bigger impact, I suppose. You can touch more people.
And would you say for you personally, is that like the goal for you moving forward in terms of what you want to do?
To be honest, like when we first started, when I first joined your mentorship, that probably wasn't in my in the spectrum for me. I thought that was miles away. But here we are. So it's definitely something that we're going to do pretty soon, really. And the thing about it logically, like long term, like there's only, if you want to keep consistently hitting the same revenue each month, you are going to have to. You can't keep taking on so many guys because like you're going to run out of room. Like so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And that moves on to a good point. So something you asked me this month was about putting, so obviously you're doing some ad spend at the moment, but actually investing in it more heavily and putting more money towards ads. And there was a question you asked me, is this something I should do? And then to your point, we always have to look at the business and the infrastructure of what it is and what you're taking on. So for Paul in this case, like he had a month of, do you know how many sign-ups you had this month exactly?
17.
And what's your total client number?
At the minute it is 81.
81. Okay, so a one-person coach having 81 clients, taking on 17 people, maybe a few drop off, but that kind of like plus 15 a month. If we then dial that up by putting ad spend on top of it as well, with you just doing the fulfillment, before you know it, that gets completely out of hand. So we should always set goals for the business in terms of what the infrastructure says and what we can actually do.
If I'm at 81 now, like what would you say is the kind of sweet spot in terms of like where you would actually hire a coach, and then even when you do hire a coach, how many clients should you allocate to that coach until you actually get another coach? And maybe that's looking too far down the line.
No, it's a good question. It's actually not. They're actually really both good questions. Okay, so firstly, in terms of client numbers, what I found is like this is actually quite like coach dependent. I've worked with some clients and they have 30, 40 clients and they're like, that's as much as I can do to like run the business at the same time. I have some people like you doing 80, like that's a really high amount. I'd say that's kind of like top level. I do know some guys with like 100 clients plus kind of coaching themselves. I think in their cases, what I found with their business model, they get a lot of like inbound referrals or inbound leads. So maybe in terms of like marketing and energy they have to put towards that isn't as high. So they're like, okay, I'm mostly doing the coaching, but my referrals and my inbounds are so good, I'm kind of okay with this number. So I do think it depends on one, the individual, and two, how many hats that the person has to wear in the business. So really how I'd give you the answer. One, I'd be like, okay, with the system we have set up now with ads, appointment setter in the business, taking on the many clients, how many more months could you actually last in this position of this intake? And you'd probably say not long.
It wouldn't be long.
It wouldn't be long.
Like it wouldn't be long at all.
To your second point about like getting a coach on board and how many clients should you give a coach under you before taking on maybe another coach. So this is actually a lesson that I learned with my fitness business, having the first coach on board, actually giving him too many clients like too quickly. And that's something I found. We're intaking a lot of clients and passing them off, and it was really too quickly to a point he actually said, oh, can you actually stop giving me clients now? I'm actually like feel like this is quite overwhelming. And I think as a business owner, for me, I wouldn't want to ever put a member of my team in that position. One, because I think they may not appreciate getting, like I think a coach under you should always appreciate getting clients. So like every time you're like, I have a client for you, that they're like amazing, like delighted. And two, it should be performance based. So you should kind of be at a position where like, I'm going to give you a client when you kind of, well, not obviously you want to give them clients, but they have to kind of earn it, or they have to be showing it. They're not just being past them. So I'd be kind of like looking at your intake. I would say if you got a coach up to 20, 25, 30 clients, you should definitely be looking at a second one. And why I would say that for a second point is like security of the business. So if you had a coach and they had 50, 60 clients and it was just two of you, if he or she goes, that's a huge part of your coaching business gone. Whereas if you had two coaches in there, maybe 25, 30 clients each, it's more evenly spread, so it's a bit safer for you and the business.
That makes a lot of sense. I've never really thought about it like that.
So that's what I would say. And I think something I find as well for coaches who are coaching themselves, looking to get a coach, there can be almost a feeling of kind of like being quite nervous about getting someone on board and like being able to fill them up and stuff. And I think when you set the expectations correctly, like you shouldn't be. So you should never hire a coach and say, this is going to be your full-time job. I'm going to like, be sorting you out full salary income. Like that puts a huge amount of pressure on you. And obviously if you don't fill them up, it could be, an expense into the business that you're not actually, it's not making sense for you. So I think initially setting the expectations like, okay, this is going to be part-time to begin with.
Yeah.
You're going to get paid per client who you work with. I would love you to have like a full roster of clients. I'd love this to be like your full-time job, full-time salary. But just to begin with, it's going to be performance-based. So I'm going to give you a client, see how you get on, and we're going to assess, and I'll be kind of drip feeding you clients straight.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a good standard of coaching, we'll keep filling you up. But like, this isn't going to be something like you can leave whatever you're doing for your current income right now. It has to be almost on the side. And leave it set that expectation, and then them getting to the point where they're saying to you, look, I'm so busy with coaching now, don't really have time for my other job, and then you can have a conversation about maybe making it more full-time. Does that make sense?
And in terms of like actually like hiring a coach, how would you qualify a coach? Like, how would you, what does that process look like in terms of like, are they a good fit? What age should they be? What do they look like in terms of like their physique? Like, do they look similar to me? Do they not? You know, is that important?
Yeah, good questions. So I suppose based on my experience, a few things. One, I've always found, so I've hired coaches, and only one coach I've hired outside who was never a client. So one person applied, were never a client of my fitness business, and was impressed by them, took them on. They were actually the only coach that like didn't work out properly.
Right, okay.
So I find when you can kind of, not saying you have to at all, but like if you can hire from within, if there's like a good candidate, there's a good chance this person looks up to you a lot, already is bought into your values, already is bought into kind of like your brand ethos and like how that is. So there should be quite a good fit for the position from that standpoint. Then to your point about the physique, I think that's important. I think they do have to lead from the front. So if they're not a good client, or a client who's maybe not the most consistent, hasn't achieved the most amount of progress, it's like, okay, will you actually inspire people if you come on board as a coach? So if you can say yeah to that, then you could probably personally set someone a challenge, which I have before. So really good potential fit for our coaching business applied, and I initially said no. And I said, you kind of have to earn the right. I was like, you have the potential, but you haven't shown me as a client that you can lead from the front. So over the next few months, show me, and we'll revisit it. She actually like crushed the next few months, revisited it, became a coach. So it might be, you know, setting goals with people if there is specific you can think about, but they're maybe not at the level. Does that make sense?
It does, and like for where I'm at, like with me specifically, what kind of age of a person should I be looking? Like someone around my age, or like a bit older, or like, because I feel like if I do coach a lot of guys that are sort of 21, 22. Like when you ask, is there like people, you know, you've coached possibly you could, you know, convert into a coach? A few come to mind definitely, but I do feel like possibly a bit too young for maybe. Does that sort of look sort of bad on the brand, or maybe not bad? Bad's probably the wrong word, but
no, I get you. I think there has to be. I think young can be. I don't think young is necessarily bad, and I wouldn't actually be able to put an age on it. There might be. So for example, which I think the point you're getting at, if I'm signing up guys in their 30s and they're coming with me, and then I'm putting them to coach who's 21, are they going to really like look up to the coach? Is that kind of?
But there wouldn't be much. Well, there may not be much authority. That's kind of my sort of thinking behind it. So I think one authority would come from being a coach under your brand. So you've built a lot of authority. So anyone you hire to be a coach under you is hopefully going to do it. I think secondly to the point, it's going to be like leading from the front from a physique standpoint. So as your coaching is predominantly physique based, if they're a coach under your brand, if they can look the part, they're going to be two big things for them. Like our coaches were quite young when we initially took them on. They didn't necessarily look that young, but like I never felt like it was a massive area like that needed to be addressed, because if their kind of like attitude and stuff was all on point. And say you go through that qualifying process, you nail down a coach, everything's going well. How much should you actually pay them per client?
Good question. Okay, so I would look at this versus how much you're kind of like charging on like a monthly fee for coaching. I've heard, mentors and coaching businesses, and it's advice I got in the past to do like a 50-50 split, which is like, I think way too much, and I know there is coaches out there who pay that. But the thing I would consider for you is if it's a 50-50 split, they get 50% of it in full, you're 50%, you have to think of like cost to acquire a customer. So the money you've put into ads, the money you've put into business coach, the money you've put into appointment setter, all the things you've done, that's all going to get taken out of your pay. So now they're almost making more money from a client than you are, and you're putting all the work into the marketing, the content, everything like that. Yeah. So I would never feel like it has to be anywhere near like a 50-50 split. I think like people are different numbers. I think like maybe like a 20 to 30%, 20 to 30% kind of like cut is a pretty decent number.
Right, okay.
But on that, what I also think you can do is if you do that off kind of like your lower end coaching package. So let's say you do, okay, it's £250 to work with my coach, and my coach gets £50 per month, which would be 20%. If you keep increasing your prices, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to kind of correlate that with the coach.
Yeah.
Because if you notice like, okay, I'm having to put more money into ad spend, putting more money into content, putting more money into this, the cost to acquire customers going up and up. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to replicate that with the pricing.
Yeah, that makes
sense. Cool. Something else I wanted to talk to you about was where you kind of were at content-wise before starting with me versus like what we spoke about. And I know a big thing for you then, and didn't really fully align with you, but you were doing it because you nearly thought you had to, was trying to go viral, and not trying to go viral, but trying to put up content which is more for engagement perspective than anything you wanted to say or do. Yeah,
I suppose I was just playing the game. That was one of the first things that I brought up to you and mentioned, and it didn't sit right with me. And it just didn't align with who I am and what I want to do. And I suppose you touched on just producing content that actually is a bit about you and it aligns with your values, and the guys that sort of resonate with that will resonate with that, and they'll be a good fit for your coaching brand. So I had to out the window with that one.
I think from my perspective, like how I see it, even like with my own, it's like I always want to firstly like build credibility and build trust and be authentic as possible. And I think what you can do is put money behind that style of content to get the engagement you want. So there's people out there maybe not necessarily being themselves or doing something they feel they have to do to try get engagement, but for me, I'm like, I'll be myself 100%. And if I put a bit of money behind it to increase engagement, then I would prefer to do it that way.
It builds trust, really, big time. I think that's a big massive factor.
100%. And I think that's almost, even if you think about like your Instagram page, like if you went through it, it's like so many people are offering things, whether it's free things, whether it's paid things, people are just seeing offers constantly. So if you can show up in your content and just build trust, give value, and you're not actually offering anything, it's just something that you're doing, like that's going to resonate with a lot of people, builds that trust, builds that credibility. Then if they come into your kind of like network, like drop on your page, drop you a follow, now you're in a position where you can do more direct CTAs to them because there is a bit more trust there, a bit more credibility.
Doing that viral, there's not really much conversion with it anyway. Just sort of sticking to who you are, guys will come to you for you, as 100%. Opposed to how many views you're getting on a certain reel or
And do you think from you doing that, like, because I know a lot of your calls have come through outreach and settings, do you think almost your organic marketing or organic lead gen has improved since maybe making a bit of a switch in your content?
Big time. Just as mentioned, just sort of went down, just sort of put what we were doing beforehand to the side. I'll not be opening that door again. And just sticking with who I am and delivering content, producing content that actually does align with me. Because that's what I would want to see. Like 100%. Anything I produce is now just what would the 21-year-old version of me want to see, what would help him, and almost producing content that is just going to help guys in that same position as well.
100%. I think just to your point about like it wasn't a great conversion, I think sometimes that can be the misconception. People will maybe see whether it's organic viral or whether it's paid ads, they see like all these leads and they think, geez, that person must be like crushing it, whatever. I know firsthand with a lot of people, like that's not the case. And sometimes if you can actually narrow in your focus, maybe have a smaller audience, but you create like raving fans through the content you're doing, like who really are like built a lot of trust with you, really like what you say, really listen to what you say. If you can have 100 of those people versus 10,000 of the people who are just kind of commenting on your stuff, but like don't really trust you, don't really buy into you properly.
Yeah, they don't know you either. They don't actually know who you are.
Yeah. Obviously, from where the business was when we started together, which was just kind of on the cusp of like a 6-figure business, to what you've achieved in the last 3 months, 3 record-breaking months, and obviously just hitting a 27k a month. So now at a point where you're like over $250,000 business, which is absolutely incredible. From my perspective, I think you deserve, 1, appreciation, which I've given to you, but 2, actually just an accolade to show off the work. I think in business, it's not something we always get accoladed for. So from my perspective, something I wanted to do for you was welcome you into the CEO Platinum Club. There you go, bro.
Very good. Thank you.
So I'll be expecting those on your Zoom calls.
Very good. Well.
Okay, so another interesting point that I thought would be good to discuss would be the rebrand that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
So interestingly, this isn't something I've recommended to really a lot of clients since I've started business coaching. It's going to be person dependent and obviously based on the name of the current business. Your current coaching business is Paul Smith Coaching.
Yeah.
And obviously the way you want to take your business is, building a team, which when it's based on your name, it can be harder for you to, offset clients and stuff.
Yeah.
So talk me through a bit of our thinking and your thinking behind the rebrand and kind of like the next steps.
Yeah, I suppose just literally taking my name out of it, creating a brand that's much bigger than me.
Yeah.
Future facing a few years down the line.
Yeah.
Maybe have more than 1 or 2 or 3 coaches.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to pull my name out.
Yeah.
I feel like if your name's in the brand, guys will maybe apply for the coaching with the sole purpose of wanting to actually work with whoever's name's in the brand name.
100%.
So they're actually guys that do sign up.
Yeah.
Well, we just sign up for the brand as opposed to one specific person.
100%. I think it's a really cool position to be in. It's something I've been in with my own fitness business Accomplish, where at the start, obviously, people knew me, people were coming for me, and it got to a point where I was getting on sales calls with people for Accomplish, and they didn't even really know who I was.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I've just heard about Accomplish. So even though I've been there from day one, now all of a sudden I've got to a point where like the brand was a bigger name than me.
Yeah.
And some people, personal egos, etc., may not like that. They're like, oh no, I always want to be like the main. But for me, wanting to kind of take a step back and be in the background, I was absolutely loving it. I was like, this is such a great position to be in when the brand is becoming more powerful than my name personally.
And it gives you that opportunity to step back. Whereas if your name's in it, probably going to have to stay in the coaching element. Which is what I intend to do, to be fair. But thinking long term, maybe I will want to step out of it at some point and having a different name. Being under a different name, that's going to give me that opportunity.
100%.
That's not to say that you probably can't step out of your own, but it wouldn't really.
No, it's definitely true. Like you 100% can. Like if I know coaches who have it under their name and they're still able to scale and stuff. I just do think it makes it definitely more challenging, even like on consultation calls. Are people expecting to definitely work with Paul versus when it's your coaching brand name? That becomes less likely. Then you get to a point where we're building up the coaching brand Instagram page, and you're running ads into that page. Now people might not have even heard of you, and they're just like seeing the results. They're seeing your content, and it makes it much easier for you. Is that something? Obviously, that we will go into in a lot more detail, but is that something you've thought about around hiring a coach in terms of like conducting sales calls and how to like? Okay, I'm on a sales call. How do I not coach the person myself? How do I make sure?
I suppose like if I'm on a call with someone and they're applying for the coaching, they may want to say work with me as opposed to a coach. How do you kind of like almost let the guy know that let the person know that yes, you're coming on board, but you're also working with another coach under the brand, and like how do you sort of come across where you're not sort of just offloading them? Maybe they don't want to work with someone else, maybe they want to work with you. How would you approach that?
100%. So I think with this, I never just have one clear answer, because I think it's going to be dependent on what the business owner wants from the situation, and there can be kind of multiple of different scenarios. So scenario one, it gives you a lot of opportunity to actually increase your own prices. So from your perspective, you could say to a point, okay, so at the moment I'm not really taking on people to work one-to-one with me. I am hugely involved with the coaching. Your main accountability coach will be coach name, but like I'm involved. We have like calls every morning. If you did want to work with me one-to-one, it is X amount, but if you just wanted to work with us as a team with coach name as accountability, it's Y amount. So now you're in a much stronger position than you've ever been before, because all the time it's been I'll do this for you, I'll do this. Now it's a we, and if people do want to work one-to-one with you, that you have the opportunity to be like, look, I don't really take on people, but if you really want to work with me, it's this price. So now they're at a point where they're like, okay, I want to work with you so bad, I'll pay that amount. From your perspective, you're like, I'm now taking on clients at a way higher rate. Or number two, they're like, okay, the other option of working with the coach is worth it for me because I just save a good bit of money. So that would be one way you can actually like leverage the two different tiers. I think another huge point, and this is something I heard from, I remember Hattie Boyle, who's quite a famous Australian fitness model. Someone said to her, oh, like Hattie, you don't do any of the coaching? And she said, oh, I do the coaching. Like everything's been built by me, all the frameworks, all the plans, the whole coaching brand, the coaching training, like everything's been done by me. The only difference is I don't speak directly with the client. So that's another point that you could say. It's like it's us, like we have a team. We both have our own specialties. We're both like hugely involved with the coaching. I just want to have a coach there for you who can be on hand to message you back, give you quick feedback with your check-ins. So that's why coach name will be taking care of that. But like we're both very much involved. So that's option two. Another thing, thirdly, that I think can be like a strong point for you is like actually talking up your coach in a specific way. So you both kind of having specialties in different areas. So it's myself and coach name. We both work within the coaching. When we get your questionnaire in, we'll kind of look at your questionnaire, and as we're both specialised in different areas, we'll see who's the best fit for you. So we'll make sure we appoint a coach for you who's actually the best allocated to give you the service that you need. And if they hear that and they're like, okay, I know I'm going to be assigned to the one who suits me better, and I'm happy with either or, then it's another nice way of kind of like leading that in.
And in terms of like actually having a coach in your brand, I've seen a lot of the top coaching brands that I sort of would look up to, you know, in Ireland, UK, they would all have their coaches like in the limelight, almost like just sort of, it's like a lineup in the Premier League, you know, on Sky Sports. It's kind of like that. And then I see other guys, you know, other coaches out here that have coaches, and you wouldn't even know that they have coaches. Like they're just unheard of. What would your, like, I know for me personally, I would rather have the coach in the limelight with me because we are a team. And we're like, you know, we're turning up together, whereas
good question.
Other guys would kind of, I'm not going to say hide that they have coaches, but you just don't see it. What would your take on that? Would you go down the route of, yes, this is the team, or would you say?
Okay, so if I was to say it to you, almost in the middle. So the considerations I take with coaches being in the limelight for you, if you got them to a point where their own Instagram was like really good, their content was great, they were like speaking in front of the camera, their audience was growing, they were getting inquiries from there, they would get to a point of like, hey, I don't really need to work for Paul. I'm kind of like building this myself. So I could see Paul's coaching business as a stepping stone for me to do my own thing. So sometimes if you can put your coaches too much in the limelight, if they have an entrepreneurial mindset, they may just see you as a stepping stone to go and do their own thing. So you could kind of get burnt in the future. So what I would say is, I think it's good to have them in your content and to showcase them, so when you're on calls with people, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen your coaches before, they know what they're getting, they've been introduced to them, they're familiar with them, but not to a point where they're getting to a point where they could start kind of like generating a lot of leads themselves. So if you can get your business to a point where you're the one getting all the leads, all the lead generation, you're the one kind of doing all that, passing clients to them, all the inquiries are coming to you, but you're still able to show off your coaches in a way where people recognize them, people know about them. I think that's like a good balance to find. Well,
my sort of perspective on it would be, if you have a coach in the coaching brand who's like doing well on social media and he's getting a lot of actual inbound inquiries himself, that would, you know, well, obviously that creates the temptation for them to do their own thing, but, you know, say they stay to the brand, the brand could grow at a faster rate and you could possibly hire more coaches. Could you then leverage things by promoting the coach to like a more of a responsible role where they feel like they have more authority in the business and possibly get, you know, more of a salary increase?
100%. So I think this will come down probably to the individual. So you could find someone who loves working for your coaching brand, would hate to be their own boss, like would hate to run their own business, and is very happy being like second in command, working for someone, not having the pressure and the stress you have, and 100% then in that case promoting them to head coach or above it, giving them a really decent salary, that could be a great fit. I would just be mindful that in a lot of cases it could go to a way of them wanting to do things themselves and maybe jumping ship to do it on their own. So I've always been of the mindset I never want to rely on coaches I hire to get me leads or get me clients, because if I feel if that happens, I feel there's a way more chance that they may end up leaving. So from like a loyalty perspective, to get coaches into your business who just love to coach, and you focus on all that kind of like lead generation side of things. For me, that's the strongest point you can be in, from like stability of coaches and kind of like loyalty.
Yeah, that makes sense.